Is baking a cake considered R&D? Because no one has ever baked a cake in my oven with my exact conditions, with my exact recipe anywhere in the world before, so is it R&D? Let's have a find out and look at the definition. Core R&D activities are experimental activities whose outcome cannot be known or determined in advance on the basis of current knowledge, information, or experience, but can only be determined by applying a systematic progression of work that is based on principles of established science and proceeds from hypothesis to experiment, observation, and evaluation, and leads to logical conclusions. So yes, my baking cake does satisfy those conditions. I am applying science, so there is a hypothesis for what I want to create. But let's look further to see, is it still R&D? So the outcome cannot be known or determined in advance. For an activity to be a core R&D activity, a competent professional cannot know or determine the outcome of the activity based on current knowledge anywhere in the world. The outcome needs to be one that can only be determined by applying a systematic progression of work based on principles of established science. Am I a competent professional? Well, I am not a baker. I'm not an expert in baking. So the question is, would a baker be able to predict the outcome of me baking a cake? Potentially, depending on the conditions that I have set up. So let's read a bit further. You need to assess that a competent professional cannot know or determine the outcome of the core R&D activity without an experiment as part of the systematic progression of work, and it cannot know or determine the outcome based on knowledge, information, or experience that is publicly available or reasonably accessible anywhere in the world. So the question is, am I doing anything totally unique in the world? So, to make it R&D, I could be using an oven that hasn't been used before. So, most cakes could take, I don't even know how long it takes to bake a cake. Could take an hour to bake a cake. Is there an oven that could do it in 15 minutes? So you might want to do experiments on what is an oven that could do it within 10 minutes. That could be R&D. The ingredients. Are you using an ingredient that has not been tested before? So the different types of flour. Are you using a flour that hasn't been used anywhere else in the world? Have you derived it from somewhere? So that could make it R&D. And so there's actually a definition of what is a competent professional. A relevant competent professional is a person who in their field has knowledge and experience, has qualifications if appropriate, or can otherwise act with a reasonable level of skill, keeps up to date with development, and has access to the knowledge and resources around the world. That would include the internet, relevant industry journals, and other competent professionals in the field. So how do I know if that information is available? Information that is not reasonably accessible is not available. This may include information that is commercially sensitive and held by a competitor, such as a trade secret. If the technical or scientific idea that you are testing is in your area of expertise, then you may be aware of whether relevant knowledge, information, or experience is available. Even if you or someone in your organization is an expert in the field, you will need to research other sources to check that knowledge of how you achieve your outcome does not exist worldwide. So you may review scientific, technical, and professional literature, carry out internet searches, conduct patent searches, or seek advice from an expert or experts. So in general terms, baking a cake would not satisfy being core R&D unless it met those significant innovations around the baking or the ingredients or even some of the output. So it might be the quality of the cake that you produce, so like the mouthfeel, the moisture, the longevity of it. So those things could be around R&D, but you would need to be an expert in the field.